Hey everyone, in this video I'll show you how to graph an ellipse when it's not centered at the origin. So we're going to use this equation for our ellipse. We have x plus 2 quantity squared over 4 plus y minus 3 quantity squared over 9 equals 1. So if you're trying to graph an ellipse but your equation is not in this form, you might be starting with an equation that looks like this one. And in a video, which I will link in the description box, it will show you how to do a process called completing the square. So you can take an equation that looks like this and convert it to this type of equation, which will make it much easier to graph. So, and you may be asking yourself, well, how do we know that's not centered at the origin? Well, here's why. The general form or standard form of the equation of an ellipse looks like this. X minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared equals 1. And the center is at hk. So if you are at the origin, the center would be 0, 0. So this term would just be x squared and this term would just be y squared. But as soon as you have a number other than 0 here and or here, you know you're not going to be at the origin. So that's the case here. The center for this ellipse is at -2, 3, because those are the h and k of our equation. So right away, I'm going to plot that point. So -2, and then 1, 2, 3. So there's our center. So some people like to calculate a whole bunch of stuff about the ellipse, but really I find that impossible. It's better to find the points you need to find and graph them as soon as you find them. The next things we need to find are the vertices. So to find those, we look at the denominators, and the distance away from the center that things are going to be is found by looking at the square roots of those denominators, and they will relate, their direction that is, will relate to whatever variable they're under. For example, things that are under the x will be in the horizontal direction. So we'll say, okay, a squared is 4, meaning a is 2, and that's how we use this information. We will go from the center 2 units in the horizontal direction positive and 2 units in the horizontal negative. And b squared equals 9, which means b is equal to 3. So that means we'll go 3 units in the y direction from the center. So we go 1, 2, 3 in the positive direction and 1, 2, 3 in the negative direction. So now we have something that is definitely taking shape as an ellipse, because we're going to have an oval here, and we can even start drawing that in. I like to ghost in lightly the first time because it's kind of hard to draw a freehand oval, I find. And then you can go back in and reinforce that. All right. And that will help us find the vertices. So the vertices are on the major axis, and a major axis of an ellipse is this right here, which I'm putting a little dotted line. And you will need to list those points in your answer. So to find these points, we just list their coordinates like any other points. So this one down here is at -2, 0. And this one here is at -2, 6. And we can also list those right on the graph. And now the next thing we need to find are the foci. So we need to find a quantity called c to find the foci. And to do that, we use a little formula, c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Now, I'm playing a little fast and loose with what is A and what is B in this case. Your textbook made me more specific where they always put the A, they always make the A whatever the higher number is and so forth. I don't like to memorize a lot of different formulas, so I just like to say, in general, this is the idea of the equation, but we're always going to say c squared is whatever the bigger number is minus the smaller number, because that's really what matters here. So c squared, it will be 9 minus 4, which equals 5, so that means c equals plus or minus the square root of 5. So the foci are points inside the ellipse, and they are on this major axis. And they are going to be on the major axis this many units away from the center. The foci coordinates are going to be positive square root of 5 units up and negative square root of 5 units down from that center. And to plot that, it's handy to get a decimal approximation on your calculator of square root of 5, and that's about 2.24. And so we go 2 1/4 units up approximately and 2 1/4 units down to plot the foci. Now when you list those foci, I want you to list them this way. The coordinates of the coordinates of each of these points. So this one is going to be -2, that's for the x coordinate, and then 3 minus the square root of 5. And then this one will be -2, comma, 3 plus the square root of 5. And so those are the major things you need to know about plotting an ellipse. And just to review, you want to make sure you plot the center and list that, plot the vertices and list those, and plot the foci and list those. And of course, make your graph.